There's a kind of violence that doesn't leave bruises you can photograph. It lives in the space between what was promised and what was taken, in the slow disappearance of your savings, one emergency at a time, in the guilt that replaces your good judgment. I learned this at 68 years old, standing in my own living room, tasting blood from a split lip, realizing the worst part wasn't the slap. It was how long I'd been letting it happen before that. My grandmother used to say, "Baby, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time." She lived through Jim Crow, raised 7 children on a seamstress's wages, and died with her dignity intact. I thought I'd inherited her discernment. Thought 42 years of directing plays, reading people, understanding motivation, seeing through performance, had taught me something about human nature. Turns out, the closer someone gets to your heart, the harder it is to see them clearly. This isn't a story about a random act of violence. Those I could have handled. I grew up in southeast Portland in the 60s. I've been called names that would make your stomach turn. I've had doors slammed in my face, been followed in stores, had people cross the street rather than walk past me. That kind of hate is clean in its own terrible way. You know where you stand. No, this is about something quieter, more insidious. About how a man can smile at you across the Thanksgiving table while planning how to empty your bank account. About how your own child can look you in the eye and ask you to betray yourself and make you feel like the villain for saying no. This is about the kind of betrayal that doesn't announce itself with a burning cross or a slur. It comes wrapped in, "I love you, and we're family, and I just need help this one time." It counts on your compassion, your history, your deep-seated need to prove you're not the stereotype they expect, that you're generous, that you lift as you climb, that you take care of your own. It weaponizes everything you were taught to value. My late husband William used to say I had a sixth sense for liars. Could spot a con artist in the lobby before intermission. He'd laugh when I'd correctly predict which actor would drop out, which donor would flake, which board member was embezzling. "Dot," he'd say, "you see, people, so how did I miss this one? How did I let a man who called me Mom take $60,000 from my family? How did I watch him manipulate my daughter, exploit my dead husband's memory, and prey on my relatives without saying a word?" Because he didn't start with the slap. He started with love, with patience, with showing up. And by the time I saw him clearly, my lip was bleeding and my daughter was crying. And I had a choice to make about what kind of woman I'd be in the final act of my life. Let me tell you how it started. How a good man becomes a wallet. How silence becomes complicity. How a slap becomes the thing that finally wakes you up. 3 years ago, the morning light hits my kitchen just right at 7:15. Comes through the east window, catches the dust motes, turns everything golden. I make my coffee the same way I have for 43 years. 3 scoops of Folgers, water to the 8-cup line, wait for the percolator to finish its song. William always said I made it too strong, said it could strip paint. I tell him that's how my mama made it, and her mama before her, and if he wanted weak coffee, he could make his own. He never did make his own. Drank mine every morning, complained about it every morning, kissed my forehead anyway. He'd been gone 6 months that September. Stroke took him quick. 1 minute he was laughing at something on the news. The next he was on the floor, and I was screaming for Sarah to call 911. By the time the ambulance got there, he was already somewhere I couldn't follow. The house still smelled like him. Old Spice and printer ink from his home office. I hadn't touched his desk. His reading glasses still sat on top of the Portland Observer, open to the crossword he'd never finish. I poured my coffee into the blue mug Sarah gave me for my 65th birthday. "Best mom in Portland," it said in white letters. The handle had a chip from when I'd knocked it against the sink, but I'd never throw it out. Imperfect things can still hold what matters. My kitchen window looks out on the garden William and I planted in '98. Roses mostly, the kind that smell like how Grandmama's house used to smell on Sunday mornings. They were overgrown that September. I hadn't had the heart to tend them, but still blooming, pink and yellow and deep red. Insistent. Beautiful. Refusing to quit just because the gardener had given up. The house was paid off. William made sure of that before he retired from the Port of Portland. Our pension wasn't much, $2,400 a month between his and my Social Security. But it was steady. We'd saved careful. I had $45,000 in the bank, earmarked for emergencies, maybe travel someday, maybe helping the grandkids with college. The living room was exactly as we'd left it. His recliner angled toward the TV, my reading chair by the window, where I could see the roses and the street. Between them, the wall of theater, posters from my 42 years at Portland Repertory Theater and Portland Center Stage. A Raisin in the Sun, 1987. For Colored Girls, 1993. Fences, 2001. Joe Turner's Come and Gone, 2014. Each one a memory. Each one a piece of who I'd been when my knees didn't hurt and my hands didn't shake and William was alive to see me take my bows. On the shelf under the posters, my collection. Theater programs from every show I'd ever directed, organized by year, alphabetized within each year. 42 years of opening nights and closing nights and everything in between. Some people keep photo albums. I kept programs. Evidence that I'd made something, that I'd mattered. That September morning I was reorganizing them. Therapeutic, I told myself, something to do with my hands while the rest of me figured out how to be a widow instead of a wife. I'd just pulled out the 1994 folder, the year I directed August Wilson's piano lesson, the year I won the Grammy Award, when the doorbell rang. Through the front window I saw Sarah's car in the driveway. Her husband Brandon stood on my porch behind her, his hand on her shoulder. Possessive. Protective. I couldn't tell which. I set down my coffee mug. The blue one with the chip. Steady. I didn't know it then, but that was the last normal morning I'd have for 3 years. Brandon Cole came into our lives the way most men come into families. Gradually, then all at once. Sarah brought him to Sunday dinner in spring of 2020 to Anselny, right before the world shut down. "Mama, Daddy, this is Brandon," she'd said, and William had sized him up the way fathers do. Firm handshake, direct eye contact, looking for weakness. Brandon had passed. 31 years old, tech consultant, well-spoken, respectful. Called us Mr. and Mrs. Washington without being asked. Brought wine even though we didn't drink. Laughed at William's terrible jokes. Helped me clear the table without Sarah having to prompt him. "He's a good one," William had whispered to me while we did dishes. "Got a good job, treats our baby right. That's all I can ask for." I'd agreed. Mostly. There was something I couldn't name then, a performance quality to Brandon's charm. But I'd spent my life in theater. Everyone performs a little when they meet the parents. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. They married in October 2021. Small ceremony because of COVID. William walked Sarah down the aisle in our church, First AME Zion, where we'd been members for 35 years. Brandon's family came up from Sacramento. His mother, Carol, quiet and tired-looking. His father, who didn't come because he was busy. Red flag I didn't pay enough attention to. But the wedding was beautiful. Sarah was radiant. And when Brandon said his vows, looking at my daughter like she hung the moon, I let myself believe. Then William got sick. June 2022. My knee gave out coming down the stairs at the theater. Tore something, the doctor said. Surgery scheduled for July. I was 66 years old, too young to feel this old, too old to bounce back easy. That's when I saw Brandon differently. He showed up the day after my surgery. Sarah was at work. She's a nurse at Providence, couldn't always get time off. But Brandon came. Brought me Thai food from that place on Hawthorne I liked. Set up my medications in those daily pill organizers. Helped me to the bathroom when I was too proud to ask. "Easy, Miss Dot?" he'd say. My mama's friends used to call me that when I was young. Hearing it from Brandon made me feel seen, cared for. "Take your time. I've got you." For 8 weeks, he drove me to physical therapy twice a week. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 p.m. Never complained. Never checked his phone while I did my exercises. Sat in that waiting room reading the Oregonian like he had all the time in the world. On the drive home, he'd ask about my career. Really ask. Not the polite questions people make. He wanted to know about directing, about working with actors, about the politics of theater, about what it was like being a black woman running shows in Portland in the 80s and 90s. "You were a pioneer, Miss Dot," he'd said once, merging onto I-84. Sarah doesn't talk about it enough, but you opened doors. You should write a book. Who'd want to read about an old lady's career? I'd laughed. I would. He'd looked at me then, serious. You mattered. You still matter. I'd cried a little, blamed it on the pain medication. Thanksgiving 2022, 2 months after William died, Brandon saved the day. I couldn't cook. Grief had stolen my appetite, stolen my ability to care about turkey and dressing and all the rituals we'd built over 40 years of marriage. Sarah was working a double shift at the hospital, covering for someone with COVID. Brandon showed up at 8 a.m. with grocery bags. "Miss Dot, you're not spending Thanksgiving alone," he'd said, unpacking a pre-seasoned turkey, a sweet potato casserole, collard greens from New Seasons. "I can't cook like you, but I can follow directions. We're doing this together." We did. He put on Motown, William's favorite, and we cooked. He told me about his consulting business, his dreams of starting his own firm, his plans to take care of Sarah the way she deserved. He asked about William, let me tell stories, didn't get uncomfortable when I cried into the cranberry sauce. That night, after Sarah got home and we'd eaten and cleaned up, I watched them on my couch. Brandon had his arm around my daughter. She leaned into him, exhausted from her shift, content. He kissed the top of her head, absent-minded, the way William used to kiss mine. "Mama," Sarah had said, catching me watching. "We're lucky, aren't we, that we found good men?" I'd nodded, meant it. Thought about William, gone too soon. Thought about Brandon, stepping up. Thought about how rare it was to find a man who showed up. "Yes, baby," I'd said. "We're lucky." 2 weeks later, Brandon asked to talk to me privately. We sat in my living room, him on William's recliner, me in my chair by the window. December rain streaked the glass. The roses were dormant outside, bare branches against gray sky. His hands shook when he asked. I should have wondered why. "Miss Dot, can we talk privately?" Brandon stood in my doorway on a Tuesday evening in December, 2 weeks before Christmas. Sarah was at work, another late shift. The string lights I'd finally put up blinked on my porch behind him. I still hadn't bought a tree. Couldn't face it without William. "Of course. Come in, baby." I'd started calling him that. Baby, the way I called Sarah and Kevin. Family. He sat on the edge of William's recliner, didn't lean back. His leg bounced. I'd spent 4 decades directing actors. I knew nervous energy when I saw it. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Sarah all right?" Yeah, Sarah's great. We're great." He rubbed his palms on his jeans. "It's actually, I wanted to talk to you about a business opportunity." I set down my tea, waited. "I've been doing tech consulting for 3 years now, working for other people's firms. But I've got a chance to start my own company. I've got clients ready to sign. I've got the expertise. He paused. "I need startup capital." The rain picked up outside. I could hear it on the roof. The same rain William and I used to listen to on Sunday mornings when we'd sleep in and let the world wait. "How much?" I asked. His Adam's apple bobbed. $5,000. 5,000. Not a fortune, but not nothing. About a month and a half of pension. But I had it. I had the savings William and I had built over 40 years of careful living. "I know it's a lot," Brandon continued, "and I wouldn't ask, but Miss Dot, you know me. You know I'm good for it. I'll pay you back in 6 months. I'll get it notarized if you want. Put it in writing." The fact that he was nervous, that his hands shook, that he couldn't quite meet my eyes, that's what convinced me. He was scared to ask. That meant he respected me, respected my money, respected the weight of the favor. "Brandon, you don't need to get it notarized," I said. "You're family." His face transformed. Relief, gratitude, something that looked like love. "Miss Dot, Thank you. Thank you. This means everything. When the business takes off, I'm going to pay you back with interest. I'm going to take care of Sarah the way she deserves. The way—" His voice cracked. "The way Mr. William would want me to." Invoking William. Smart. Or was it manipulation? I couldn't tell. Didn't want to think about it. I wrote the check at my kitchen table. $5,000 from the savings account. Tore it out. Handed it to him. His hands didn't shake when he took it. He hugged me. tight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. After he left, I sat in the quiet. The rain had stopped. The roses outside were invisible in the dark, but I knew they were there, dormant, waiting for spring. I felt good, useful, a mother who could still provide for her children, even the ones who married in. I went to bed that night thinking about William, about how proud he'd be that I was helping Brandon, helping Sarah build their future. I didn't know I'd just bought my first ticket to a show I never wanted to see. I didn't know the price of admission was going to be everything I had left. 18 months after that first check, Brandon called me on a Wednesday afternoon. Not a visit. A call. That should have told me something. "Miss Dot? Hey, it's me." His voice had a practiced casualness. "You got a minute?" I was in my garden, finally. First time since William died that I'd felt strong enough to deal with the roses. They'd survived my neglect. Roses are stubborn that way. But they needed attention. Deadheading, mulching, the kind of care that can't be postponed forever. "I'm here, baby. What's going on?" "So the business is doing great. Really great. I've got 3 new clients signed, revenue's up, everything's on track." He paused. "But I need to purchase some equipment. High-end computers, software licenses, that kind of thing. To scale up, you know? To pay you back faster." My pruning shears stopped mid-cut. "How much equipment are we talking about?" 8,000. He said it quickly, like ripping off a bandage. "I know it sounds like a lot, but Miss Dot, this is the smart move. I invest now. I can double my client roster by fall, and then I can pay back the original 5,000 plus this new 8. With interest. By Christmas, probably. $8,000. More than 3 months of pension." I looked at my roses. The pink ones William planted for our 25th anniversary. The yellow ones from Sarah's high school graduation. Each one had a story. Each one had required patience, investment, faith that something beautiful would come if you just tended it right. "Brandon, you still owe me the first 5,000. "I know. His voice shifted. Not apologetic. Reassuring. "But that's exactly why this makes sense. Think of it as investing in the same business. You're not losing 5,000. You're growing it to 13,000 plus interest. This is how investments work." Investments. He was framing my money as a portfolio move now, not a family loan. "Miss Dot, we're family, right? Don't you want Sarah and me to succeed?" There it was, the subtle accusation wrapped in a question. The implication that saying no meant I didn't want their success, that I was choosing my bank account over my daughter's future. William used to warn me about people who weaponize your love. "Dot," he'd say, "anybody who uses 'we're family' to pressure you isn't treating you like family. They're treating you like a resource." But William was gone, and Brandon was here, on the phone, waiting. "I need to think about it," I said. Of course, take your time." A pause. "Sarah and I are just trying to build something, you know? Something stable. The kind of life you and Mr. William had. We look up to you both so much." After we hung up, I sat in my garden until the light faded. The roses didn't judge me. They just grew, or didn't grow, depending on what I gave them. I wrote the check 3 days later, $8,000. This time Brandon didn't hug me. He just nodded, pocketed it, said, "You won't regret this, Miss Dot." But he didn't look nervous anymore. Didn't look grateful. He looked expectant, like I'd done what I was supposed to do. I should have asked for the first 5,000 back before giving him more. I should have asked to see a business plan. I should have told Sarah. I didn't do any of those things. Year 1, 5. The texts started in November. Not calls anymore, not visits. Just messages that lit up my phone at random times, each one a little needle in my piece. "Brandon, November 3rd, 2:47 p.m. Saw you bought a new TV. Must be nice to have money for luxuries." I stared at that message for a full minute. I'd bought a 32-inch TV from Walmart, $178 on sale, because my old one had died and I couldn't watch the news. How did he know? Had Sarah told him? Was he watching my bank account somehow? I didn't respond. "Brandon, November 15th, 9:23 p.m. Jake's dad just helped them with the down payment on a house in Beaverton. Just saying, some parents really show up for their kids. Jake was Sarah's co-worker. I'd met him twice. His father was a retired Intel engineer with stock options. I was a retired theater director with a pension that barely covered my property taxes. The comparison was designed to hurt. And it did. Brandon, December 1st, 10:04 a.m. Not asking for a handout. Just pointing out that family is supposed to help family. That's how generational wealth works. But I guess some people are too focused on themselves. Too focused on themselves. Me, the woman who'd raised 2 kids while directing plays and working at Portland Parks and Recreation on the side because theater didn't pay enough. The woman who'd helped my sister pay for her daughter's cancer treatment in 2003. The woman who'd sent money to my cousin in New Orleans after Katrina. Too focused on myself. I was 67 years old, reading guilt-tripped text messages like some teenager in a toxic relationship. The absurdity wasn't lost on me. My friend Lorraine from church noticed something was off. We were at Bible study, and I must have checked my phone 3 times in 10 minutes. "Dot, you all right?" she asked after class. "You seem distracted." "Just family stuff," I said. Didn't elaborate. "Family stuff or Brandon stuff?" Lorraine had known me 40 years. She could read between lines I didn't know I was writing. "It's nothing." She gave me that look. The one that said, "I see you lying, but I'ma let you keep your business for now." You know where I am when it stops being nothing. I never called her. The texts kept coming through December. Through Christmas, which I spent alone because Sarah and Brandon went to Sacramento to see his mother. Through New Year's, when I watched the ball drop by myself and thought about how William and I used to stay up, how he'd kiss me at midnight and say, "One more year with you, Dot. I'm the luckiest man alive." Brandon, January 2nd, 2024, 11:18 p.m. Happy New Year, Miss Dot. Hope you're not spending that savings too fast. Never know when family might need you to actually step up. I turned my phone off after that one. Sat in the dark. Wondered when baby had become Miss Dot again. Wondered when helping had become not enough. Wondered when I'd lost control of my own life. Easter Sunday, March 31st, I'd made ham, collard greens, macaroni and cheese from my grandmother's recipe, the one that takes 3 hours and 4 kinds of cheese, and a patience most people don't have anymore. Sweet potato pie cooling on the counter. The house smelled like my childhood. Like holidays when people still gathered without resentment. Sarah arrived at 1 p.m. right on time. Brandon came in 20 minutes later, face already set in displeasure. "Traffic," he said. Didn't apologize for being late. Didn't compliment the food. Walked through my house like he was cataloging it for an estate sale. "We sat down to eat," said Grace. My prayer was longer than Brandon liked. I could see him shifting, impatient. But this was my table, my house, my God. He could wait. "This is delicious, Mama," Sarah said, genuine. She'd missed Sunday dinners. Her schedule at Providence was brutal. 12-hour shifts, understaffed wards, the kind of nursing that grinds you down. "I've been craving your mac and cheese for weeks." "Well, you know where I live, baby," I smiled. "You don't have to wait for holidays." Brandon's fork scraped against his plate. Loud, deliberate. "Must be nice," he said, "to have time to cook elaborate meals, to just sit around." The air changed. Sarah's hand froze halfway to her mouth. "Excuse me?" I said. Brandon looked around my dining room, at the good china I'd brought out, at the photographs on the wall, William in his Port of Portland uniform, me accepting my Drammy Award, the kids at various ages. At the china cabinet full of things I'd collected over 7 decades of living. "I'm just saying, Miss Dot, you're sitting on a gold mine here." He gestured vaguely. "This house, it's what, 3 bedrooms? How much equity you got? You paid it off, right?" "Brandon," Sarah's voice held a warning. "What? I'm just talking." He turned to me. "Have you thought about downsizing? Moving into one of those nice senior communities? They've got places in Gresham, real affordable, and you'd have less to maintain. More cash on hand." I set down my fork carefully. "I've lived in this house for 36 years. Raised my children here. This is where William—" Right, I get it," Sentimental value. He said it like that was a quaint, foolish thing. But sentiment doesn't build wealth. You could sell this place, clear probably 400,000 or 500,000, move somewhere smaller, and then you'd actually have resources to help your family. Help my family? Yeah, I mean, you keep saying you don't have money to invest in our business, but you're living in $500,000. You see the contradiction, right? Sarah stood up. We're leaving. Sarah, no, Brandon, we're leaving. Her voice was shaking, not with anger, with shame. Mama, I'm so sorry. It's okay, baby. It's not okay. She looked at her husband. What is wrong with you? She made us Easter dinner and you're talking about her selling her house? Brandon stood too, slow, aggrieved. The victim now. I'm trying to have an honest conversation about financial planning, but I guess some topics are off limits. I guess wanting a better life for us makes me the bad guy. He walked to the door. Sarah followed, torn, apologizing over her shoulder. Mama, I'll call you later. I'm sorry. I don't know why he... The door closed. Not slammed, just closed. Quiet. Final. I sat at my table. The ham was getting cold. The greens congealing. The mac and cheese. 3 hours of work, 4 kinds of cheese, my grandmother's love language. Untouched except for Sarah's single serving. My phone buzzed an hour later. Sarah, Mama, Brandon says you don't care about our future. Is that true? I stared at that message for 10 minutes. Finally typed, Baby, I care about you more than anything, but I can't give more than I have. Sarah, why are you being selfish about this? Other parents help. I didn't respond. Deleted the text thread, turned off my phone. In my garden, the roses were blooming. They didn't care about equity or downsizing or what other people's parents did. They just grew toward the light and hoped the gardener would remember to water them. Year 2.5. Summer, my son Kevin called in July. He'd moved to Chicago 15 years ago for work. Cybersecurity consultant, made good money, had a wife and 2 kids I only saw on FaceTime. He tried to visit twice a year, but life gets busy. I understood. Ma, what's going on with Sarah? No preamble. Kevin had inherited William's directness. What do you mean? She called Tasha crying last night. Something about you and Brandon fighting? About money? I pressed my fingers to my temples. The headache that had lived behind my eyes for 6 months intensified. We're not fighting, baby. I just can't keep giving him money. Giving him? Ma, how much are we talking about? The silence stretched. Ma, $13,000. Saying it out loud made it real, made it impossible to pretend it was just family helping family. Kevin's exhale was sharp. 13,000? Ma, you're on a fixed income. Why would you? He needed startup capital. I was helping. Did he pay any of it back? Not yet, but... Ma, Kevin's voice went flat. The tone he used when he was trying not to yell. That's not helping. That's being taken advantage of. Does Sarah even know? Some of it. Some of it. He was definitely yelling now. What does Brandon say when you ask for it back? I haven't asked. The admission felt like failure. You haven't... Ma, what? Why not? Because asking felt like admitting I'd made a mistake. Because asking meant confronting the fact that Brandon wasn't planning to pay me back. Because asking meant seeing clearly what I'd been avoiding looking at for 2 years. He says he needs more time, that the business is growing. The business that you funded with $13,000 of your retirement money. Kevin, no, Ma, this is wrong. Dead wrong. I'm coming home. We're having a family meeting. Don't you dare. My voice went sharp. You have a job. Kids. You can't just fly across the country because your mama made some bad financial decisions. They're not just bad decisions if someone's manipulating you. Nobody's manipulating me. But even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. We both knew it. Kevin sighed. Ma, I love you. I respect you. But you're too close to this. Brandon's showing classic predatory behavior. Financial exploitation of elders is... I am not being exploited. My voice rose. I am a grown woman who made choices, and I don't need my children treating me like I've lost my faculties. Ma, I said no, Kevin. Stay in Chicago. Take care of your family. I can handle mine. I hung up, regretted it immediately, didn't call back. 2 hours later, Sarah called. "Mama, Kevin said you told him about the money." He asked, "Did you tell him it was my idea? That I asked you to help Brandon?" My heart stopped. "Did you ask me to help Brandon?" "Not directly, but, Mama, he's my husband. When you help him, you're helping me. You understand that, right?" "Baby, I love you. You know that." "But you won't help us." Her voice cracked. "Daddy would have helped." The invocation of William hit like a slap. She knew it would. That's why she said it. "Your daddy would have asked questions, would have wanted to see business plans and tax returns. Your daddy didn't hand out money without accountability. You're saying Brandon's not accountable?" "I'm saying I can't afford to keep giving without getting anything back." Silence. "I have to go," Sarah said. "My shift starts soon." She hung up. That night I sat at my kitchen table with my bank statements spread out, highlighted every withdrawal to Brandon, calculated the interest I'd lost, the money that could have gone to my grandchildren's college funds, to the roof that needed replacing, to the future I thought I was securing. $13,000. Gone. And somehow, I was the selfish one. I was reorganizing my theater programs when the doorbell rang, a ritual I'd return to in moments of stress, alphabetizing, checking dates, making sure everything was in its proper place, control over something, anything, when the rest of my life felt like a stage play where everyone knew their lines except me. I'd just found my Death of a Salesman program from 1994, the year I won the Drammy. The year critics said I'd brought urgency and heartbreak to Arthur Miller's classic. I'd directed it at Portland Center Stage, my first main stage production. William had been in the front row opening night, bouquet of roses on his lap, crying before intermission. "Nobody directs tragedy like my Dot," he'd said afterward. "You make people feel it in their bones." I was feeling tragedy in my bones now. Real tragedy. The kind that doesn't end with curtain calls. The doorbell rang again. Insistent. Through the window, Sarah's Honda Civic. Brandon's black Audi behind it. Both of them on my porch. March rain dripping from the awning I'd had William install in 2008 when water damage threatened my foundation. Everything in this house had a history. Everything had been paid for with our labor, our planning, our partnership. I set down the program, smoothed my blouse, opened the door. "Mama?" Sarah's smile was strained. "Can we come in?" "Of course, baby." Brandon walked in first, didn't wait for Sarah, didn't greet me, just walked into my living room like he owned it. They sat on my couch. Sarah perched on the edge, hands twisted in her lap. Brandon sprawled, legs wide, arm across the back of the cushions, claiming territory. I took my reading chair, the one by the window where I could see my roses. They were budding early this year, stubborn blooms refusing to wait for certainty. "We need to talk about something important," Sarah began. "Coffee?" I offered. "Old habits. You don't let people sit in your house without offering hospitality, even when you know they're about to ask you for something you can't give." "No, we're fine," Brandon said. "This won't take long." Won't take long. Like I was a bank teller, not his mother-in-law. Like we were conducting a transaction, not having a family conversation. His eyes swept my living room. Calculating. I'd seen that look on actors' faces when they were deciding whether a role paid enough to be worth their time. This wasn't going to go well. "I've got this opportunity," Brandon started. No preamble, no small talk. "Tech consulting contract. Big client, guaranteed revenue, but I need capital to scale up. Equipment, hiring, office space. Real growth." "How much?" I kept my voice level. His smile faltered. Reset. 15,000. The number hung in the air like a stage direction I couldn't interpret. "Brandon, you still owe me 13,000 from the last 2 opportunities." "Those were different." He leaned forward. "This is guaranteed. I've got a signed letter of intent. The client's ready to go. I just need the capital injection to deliver." And the answer is no. The temperature in the room dropped. I felt it. Sarah felt it. The rain outside intensified, drumming on the roof. Brandon's fingers drummed once on his knee, then stopped. His jaw worked sideways. Sarah reached for his arm. Just like that? His voice was quiet, dangerous. No discussion? Brandon, maybe we should... Sarah tried. Your mother needs to understand family obligations. He cut her off, eyes locked on mine. We're not strangers. We're not some charity case. We're your family, your daughter's future. I kept my voice level, the same tone I used directing actors who forgot their blocking. I understand my pension is $2,400 a month. I understand I'm 68 years old. I understand you've never repaid a cent. You're sitting on savings. He was standing now, 3 steps from my chair. You've got this house. Meanwhile, we're struggling and you... I said no. His hand came fast. The slap cracked like a prop gun firing. Sharp, shocking, real. My head snapped sideways. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth before I registered the pain. My grandmother's voice echoed in my head. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I was believing him now. Oh my God. Brandon, what did you... Sarah's voice came from underwater. She pushed me to it. Brandon was pacing now, aggressive, righteous. Standing there all high and mighty like she's too good to help her own daughter. Like her money's more important than family. I touched my lip. My fingers came away red. The room tilted, then steadied. Brandon's pacing knocked over something on my side table. One of my theatrical masks, the comedy mask from a 2003 production of The Tempest. It landed face up on the carpet, grinning at the ceiling. The irony would have been funny if my face wasn't throbbing. Say something. Brandon leaned over me, close enough I could smell his cologne. Expensive cologne. More expensive than my heating bill. More expensive than my grocery budget. Paid for with whose money? I dabbed my lip with my sleeve, tested my jaw. Everything still worked, physically at least. I looked past him to Sarah. Frozen halfway between standing and sitting, her hand extended toward me but stopping in midair like she'd hit an invisible wall. My daughter, my baby, choosing silence. Get out of my house. You're making a mistake. Brandon's voice went cold. When you're old and alone, don't come crying to us. Out, now. He grabbed Sarah's arm, yanked her toward the door. She looked back once, her face twisted with something I couldn't name. Confusion? Shame? Fear? The door slammed hard enough to rattle the framed poster from my 1998 production of Fences. August Wilson's words about building fences to keep people in or keep people out. I'd never understood that line as clearly as I did right now. I stood slowly, tested my balance, walked to the bathroom. My reflection showed a split lip already swelling, a darkening bruise spreading across my jaw. The woman in the mirror looked older than 68. I wet a washcloth with cold water, pressed it to my face. Behind me, in the mirror, I could see into my bedroom. The photo of William on my nightstand. Wedding day, 1976. Young and beautiful and full of hope that we could build something that would last. I walked back to the living room. The Death of a Salesman program I'd been holding lay on the floor, pages bent where I'd gripped it during the confrontation. I picked it up, smoothed it carefully. Everything in its place. Everything organized. Even when your world is falling apart, you can still control small things. My phone buzzed from the coffee table, once, twice, 3 times. I didn't look. Knew it was Brandon. Knew it would be more accusations, more manipulation, more attempts to make me the villain in a story where I'd just been assaulted in my own living room. I walked to the window instead. Brandon's black Audi peeled away from the curb, tires squealing on wet pavement. The sound echoed between the houses on my quiet street. Mrs. Patterson from across the street was walking her small dog. She stopped, looked up at Brandon's car, then at my window. Our eyes met through the glass. Her expression shifted. Concern. Recognition. She'd seen something, heard something. Her face told me that much. I pulled out my phone. Not my iPhone. The old flip phone I kept for emergencies. The one I'd had since 2010 because it still worked and I'd been raised not to throw away things that still worked. Scrolled through contacts I hadn't touched in years. Catherine Hayes, attorney at law. We'd worked together on a benefit for Portland Center Stage in 2018. fundraiser for their education program. She'd been sharp, asked the right questions, didn't suffer fools. We'd bonded over being black women in predominantly white professional spaces, over the particular exhaustion of always having to be twice as good to be considered half as competent. My thumb hovered over her name. Behind me, my iPhone buzzed again, and again, Brandon's words piling up unread. Mrs. Patterson was still watching my window. I pressed down. Catherine Hayes. Catherine, it's Dorothy Washington. We worked together on the Portland Center Stage benefit in 2018. Dorothy, of course. How are you? A pause. Wait, it's 8:30 in the morning on a Thursday. What's wrong? I pressed the phone between my shoulder and ear, reached for a tissue, dabbed blood from my lip. My son-in-law hit me yesterday. I need to know what I can do about it. Catherine met me at a coffee shop on Martin Luther King Boulevard the next morning, neutral territory. She wore a navy suit that meant business, carried a leather portfolio that had seen years of courtrooms. I'd put makeup over the bruise. Old theater trick. Corrector first, then foundation, then powder, but Catherine saw through it immediately. Let me see. Not a request. I turned my face. Let her look at the purple spreading along my jawline, the split in my lip that had scabbed overnight. Did you take photos? No. We need photos, today, and medical documentation. She was already making notes. Did you call the police? No, I wanted to talk to you first. Smart. She set down her pen. Dorothy, tell me everything. Start from the beginning. So I did. The physical therapy visits in 2022. The first 5,000. The second 8,000. The text messages. Easter dinner. The escalation. Yesterday's demand for 15,000. The slap. Catherine's expression didn't change, but her pen moved faster. Do you have documentation, bank records, text messages, anything in writing? I have everything. I'd spent last night printing bank statements, screenshots of texts, writing a timeline. 42 years of directing plays had taught me to track budgets down to the last penny. Dates, amounts, his exact words. Good, that's very good. She looked up. Dorothy, I need to ask you something. Why didn't you ask for the money back? The question I'd been avoiding. I thought he'd pay me back eventually. Family doesn't... You don't put timelines on family. Family doesn't hit you in your own home either. We sat with that truth for a moment. Here's what's going to happen, Catherine said. Tomorrow morning, we're going to the Multnomah County Courthouse. We're filing assault and battery charges. Criminal, not civil. That fast? When there's physical evidence and a clear incident, yes, that fast. But Dorothy, she leaned forward. Once we file, there's no going back. Sarah will have to choose a side. Your family will fracture. Brandon will fight. Are you ready for that? I touched my bruised jaw, thought about William, about what he would say if he knew a man had put hands on me in the house we'd built together. I'm ready. One more thing. Do you have video? My mind went blank. Video? Security camera, doorbell camera, anything? Then it hit me. The Ring doorbell. Kevin had installed it 2 years ago when someone stole a package from my porch. I'd forgotten about it. I might. My hands shook, pulling out my phone. Found the app. Clicked through menus I barely understood. Security events. March 19th, 4:47 p.m. There it was. I pressed play. The video showed everything. Brandon's face contorting when I refused. My calm response. The escalation. Then his hand rising. The slap echoing tinny through my phone speaker. My head snapping sideways. Blood visible on my lip even in the camera's resolution. Sarah frozen. Reaching but not reaching. I watched it 3 times. Each replay, my jaw clenched tighter. The 3rd time, I paused at the moment of impact. Brandon's expression wasn't just angry. It was satisfied. Like he'd been wanting to do that for months. Like hitting me had felt good. Send that to me right now, Catherine said. Dorothy, this changes everything. With this video, we have an ironclad case. The text came that night. Unknown number. Unknown. Mrs. Washington, my name is Trevor Walsh. I know what Brandon Cole did to you. He did it to me, too. We need to talk. Attached. A partnership dissolution agreement dated April 2022. Brandon's signature at the bottom. Handwritten note. Still owes me $31,000. I stared at my phone. How did this person know? How did they get my number? Unknown. I heard about the assault charge through mutual connections in Portland's business community. I kept quiet about Brandon for 3 years. Signed an NDA, took a settlement, let him move on. But when I heard he hit you, I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. He's done this before. He'll do it again unless someone stops him. Me. When can we meet? Trevor. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. Stumptown Coffee on Division. I'll be wearing a Blazers cap. Trevor. And Mrs. Washington, don't tell anyone yet. Not Sarah, not your attorney. He has ways of finding out. Let me show you everything first. I arrived at 9:45. Old habit from casting sessions. Observe people before they know you're watching. Trevor entered at 9:52. White man, early 40s, fit, expensive watch, nervous energy. He scanned the room twice before ordering, chose a seat with his back to the wall, checked his phone repeatedly. Defensive position, waiting for threat. I approached at 9:58. Mr. Walsh. He stood immediately. Mrs. Washington, thank you for coming. He slid a folder across before sitting. Evidence first. Talk later. Inside, partnership documents, financial records, medical photographs of bruising across someone's torso, dark purple, nasty. Text messages showing escalating demands. Legal correspondence. April 2022, Trevor said. We were partners in a tech consulting startup. His idea, my capital. $20,000 initial investment. Another 11 in operating costs. Let me guess. The business failed. No, that's the thing. It succeeded. We had clients, revenue, growth trajectory. Then Brandon started moving money, paying himself consulting fees I never approved, using the company card for personal expenses, designer clothes, expensive dinners, that Audi he drives. I knew that Audi, had wondered how a struggling entrepreneur could afford it. I confronted him, Trevor continued. Conference room, 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I had bank statements, credit card records, asked where $31,000 went. And he pushed you. Shoved me into a filing cabinet. I cracked 2 ribs on the drawer handles. He lifted his shirt slightly, showed me a scar. Still have this? I touched my own faded bruise unconsciously. Recognition. Did you press charges? I tried. He claimed I tripped during an argument. His word against mine. No witnesses. No video. Trevor's voice went flat. I settled, got pennies on the dollar, signed an NDA to keep quiet. He walked away, started fresh, found new marks. New marks, like me. Why risk the NDA now? Why help me? Because I was a coward. He looked me in the eye. I took the settlement, stayed quiet, let him do it again. I see his name attached to new ventures. I hear rumors. I know he's still out there. But when I heard about you, a 68-year-old woman, recently widowed, him living off your family, I couldn't stay quiet anymore. How did you hear about the assault charge? It hasn't been filed yet. Portland's business community is small. Word travels. But also, he hesitated. I've been tracking him, keeping tabs, waiting for him to finally pick the wrong target. And you think I'm the wrong target? I think you have video evidence. I think you have documentation. I think you have something I didn't have. Proof. And with my testimony about pattern of behavior, about prior acts, we can show this isn't one bad moment. This is who he is. After Trevor left, I sat in my car holding his folder. 3 years of evidence that I wasn't the first, that I wouldn't be the last, that staying quiet made me complicit in whoever came next. Catherine called 3 days later. Dorothy, I need you to sit down. I was already sitting, in my kitchen, at the table where William and I had eaten breakfast for 36 years, where we'd done taxes and planned vacations and argued about whether to refinance the mortgage. I've been doing background research on Brandon, checking public records, talking to former business associates. There's something about your husband's estate that you need to know. My blood went cold. What about William's estate? Did William have a brother? David Harper in Seattle? Yes. David's my brother-in-law, William's younger brother. I spoke with him yesterday. Dorothy, Brandon contacted David in March 2023, told him Sarah had a chronic illness, that she needed specialist treatment that insurance wouldn't cover, asked for $12,000. The kitchen tilted. Sarah's not sick. I know. David knows that now too. But at the time, Brandon showed him medical documents, hospital letterhead, doctor's estimates. Everything looked legitimate. David gave him money for a disease Sarah doesn't have. Yes. And Dorothy... Catherine's voice gentled. There's more. Your husband's sister, Patricia in San Diego. I knew what was coming, felt it in my bones. How much? $15,000. Same story. Sarah needs surgery, emergency treatment, has to act fast. Patricia's a nurse. She would have seen through fake medical documents. She said they looked real. Hospital logos, physician signatures, everything. She called me crying yesterday when I contacted her. Said she's been sending money thinking she was saving Sarah's life. $27,000 from William's siblings while he was dying, while I was grieving. There's one more thing. Catherine's voice dropped. I pulled William's bank records from before he died. There's a withdrawal from your joint savings in August 2022. $8,000. 1 month before William passed. I didn't make any withdrawal in August. I know, but someone did. And Dorothy, the withdrawal was made from the branch near Providence Hospital, where Sarah works. My hands went numb. William gave Brandon money. It appears so. There's a note in the transaction memo. Sarah treatment emergency. William, my William, had died believing our daughter was sick. Had taken $8,000 from our carefully saved retirement fund, money we'd scrimped and saved for 40 years to accumulate, because he thought it would save Sarah's life. Brandon had let my husband die carrying that fear, that lie, that false belief that his baby girl might die before him. I stood, walked to the window. My roses were blooming, pink and yellow and red, beautiful and oblivious. Catherine, how much total? From your family? At least $60,000 that I've found so far. There may be more. $60,000. Stolen by lies about my daughter's imaginary illness. Stolen from people who loved Sarah enough to bankrupt themselves to save her. Mrs. Washington, are you still there? I'm here. My voice sounded distant, not mine. I know this is hard, but it strengthens our case significantly. Pattern of fraud. Multiple victims. Exploitation of vulnerable people. Elderly, grieving, disabled. The DA will be very interested in this. After we hung up, I sat at William's desk, the one I hadn't touched in 3 years. His reading glasses still on top of the newspaper. His crossword still unfinished. I pulled out the photo album, found our wedding picture from 1976. We'd been so young, so full of hope. We'd promised to build something together, something that would last. We had built it. This house, this life, this family. And Brandon had stolen from us, even in death. I called David in Seattle, called Patricia in San Diego, listened to them cry, apologized even though I had nothing to apologize for. Explained that Sarah was fine, had always been fine, that they'd been conned. I'm pressing charges, I told them. Criminal charges. I need to know, will you testify? Yes, David said immediately. God, yes. For William. For William, Patricia echoed. That night I wrote an email to Rachel Brooks, a journalist I'd worked with on a benefit years ago. Sent her everything. Documents, timeline, pattern of fraud. This is my son-in-law, I wrote, but it's also a predator who's still out there, still finding new victims. I need people to know. Her response came within an hour. I'm on it. The article would publish in Portland Monthly in 3 days. The charm offensive, when family becomes a conche. No names, but details specific enough. I hit send on my approval email. No going back now. The article went live at 7:15 a.m. on a Tuesday. By noon, my doorbell rang. Sarah stood there, phone in hand, face red from crying. She walked past me without speaking. straight to my kitchen table, threw her phone down. My coworkers are asking if this is Brandon. I'd prepared for this, had a folder ready. William's bank records, David's statement, Patricia's. The medical documents Brandon had forged with Sarah's forged signature. I slid it across the table. Sarah's hands shook as she opened it. Saw her mother's name, her uncle's name, her aunt's. Saw the amounts. Saw her own signature on fake hospital documents for diseases she'd never had. Her finger traced one signature. Paused. Traced it again. This isn't my signature. No. She read everything. Bank transfers, timestamps, amounts. Her father's withdrawal 1 month before his death. Daddy thought I was dying. Yes. Sarah stood abruptly. Paced to the window. Came back. Read again. This can't be real. It is. He wouldn't, her voice cracked. Mama, he loves me. He wouldn't lie about me being sick. He wouldn't steal from Daddy while he was... She broke off, collapsed into the chair, put her head in her hands, silent for 5 minutes. When she looked up, her face had changed. Something had shifted. Something had broken that couldn't be unbroken. I need to go home. I need to hear this from him. Sarah, don't. I need to hear him say it wasn't true. I need to look him in the eye. She left. 2 hours later, my phone rang. Mama? She was crying. He denied everything. Said you fabricated the documents. That you're having a breakdown since Daddy died. That you've always been jealous of our marriage. Did you believe him? Long silence. No. Her voice was small, broken. But Mama, he called my supervisor at Providence, told them you're dangerous, that I might not be safe around you. My stomach dropped. Security pulled me from my shift, asked if you've threatened me, if I'm safe at home. She sobbed. My supervisor was there, Mama. They're talking about suspension pending investigation. Baby, I'm so sorry. I can't do this right now. I can't. She hung up. I sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where William and I had raised our children, where we'd celebrated birthdays and grieved losses and planned our future. Brandon was destroying my daughter's career to punish me for defending myself, and I was just getting started. 3 days before the trial, Sarah showed up at my door at 10 p.m. No Brandon. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. Scrubs wrinkled, hair pulled back messy, eyes red-rimmed. Can I come in? Always, baby. We sat at the kitchen table, the place where everything important in our family had always happened, where William had told me he'd proposed to me 49 years ago, where we'd told the kids we were getting divorced, except we never did, worked it out instead, where we'd grieved and celebrated and built a life. I poured coffee, used the blue mug Sarah had given me. Best mom in Portland. The chip in the handle caught the light. Sarah wrapped her hands around her cup. Didn't drink, just held it. I left him. My breath caught. 2 days ago, packed a bag while he was at work. I'm staying at Nicole's. Her coworker, one of the other nurses. He's been calling, texting. Showed up at the hospital yesterday. Security had to remove him. Baby, I'm so sorry. Don't! She looked up, tears streaming. Don't apologize. You were right. About everything. I couldn't see it. Or I didn't want to see it. Love makes us blind sometimes. It wasn't just love, Mama. It was shame. She wiped her face. You raised me to be smart, independent, a good judge of character. And I married a man who hit my mother, who stole from my dying father, who let Daddy die thinking I was sick. Her voice broke on that last part. How do I forgive myself for that? How do I live with knowing Daddy's last months on Earth, he was worried about me dying, and it was all a lie? I reached across the table, took her hand, the hand I'd held when she was born, when she learned to walk, when she graduated nursing school, when she got married. You didn't know. I should have known. The signs were there, the money requests, the way he talked about you, the way he always needed more. But I wanted it to work so badly that I ignored everything. We sat in silence, coffee cooling, the house settling around us. When's the court date? she asked finally. May 14th, next week. What happens? He's being charged with assault and battery. Trevor's testifying about the partnership. David and Patricia about the fraud. Catherine thinks with the video evidence, the pattern of behavior, we have a strong case. Sarah nodded slowly, processing. I need to testify. Honey, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Her voice strengthened. For Daddy, for Uncle David, for all the people I didn't know about, for whoever comes next if we don't stop him. Brandon will never forgive you. Sarah looked at William's photo on the refrigerator. Our wedding day, young and hopeful and in love. Daddy would never forgive me if I didn't. She pulled out her phone, showed me a text from Brandon from that morning. Brandon, if you testify against me, we're done. I'll make sure everyone knows you abandoned your husband when he needed you most. I'll destroy your career, your reputation, everything. Think carefully, Sarah. He sent that 2 hours ago, she said. And you know what I realized? He's been threatening me our entire marriage. If you don't support me, you don't love me. If you question me, you're not a good wife. If you don't give me what I need, you're selfish. Every time I pushed back, there was a threat. She set down her phone. I'm done being threatened. I'm done being manipulated. I'm done choosing him over my own family. Baby, this is going to be hard. The trial, the divorce, all of it. I know. She took my hand again. But Mama, you taught me something. You stood up. After 42 years of making peace, keeping quiet, being the bigger person, you finally said enough. If you can do that at 68, I can do it at 34. I squeezed her hand. Your grandmother used to say, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them the first time. You told me that story. I didn't listen to it myself, not until he put his hands on me. But Sarah, you listened faster than I did. That's growth. That's strength. She stayed that night, slept in her old bedroom with the same furniture from high school. In the morning, I heard her in the kitchen making coffee. When I came downstairs, she'd made it in William's mug, the one that said World's Best Dad. She saw me looking. For Daddy, she said. We're doing this for Daddy. For Daddy, I agreed. May 14th, Multnomah County Courthouse. I walked through metal detectors, emptied my purse, felt surreal doing normal security procedures before facing the man who'd hit me. Catherine met me into the marble hallway. Sensible heels, confident posture, ready. You okay? No, but I'm here. Courtroom 4B was smaller than TV courtrooms, maybe 40 seats. Brandon sat across the aisle with his attorney, a sharp-dressed white man who looked expensive. We didn't look at each other. The judge entered. Black woman, 50s, stern face that suggested she'd heard every excuse. Judge Patricia Morrison. I'd heard of her. Tough, fair, didn't tolerate nonsense. We sat. The DA presented methodically. First the video. Lights dimmed. My doorbell footage played on a screen. My voice. Brandon's escalation. The slap echoing through courtroom speakers. My head snapping sideways. I watched the jury. 12 faces. Mixed ages, races, backgrounds. Watched their expressions change. A black woman in her 60s, front row. She flinched at the slap. Touched her own jaw unconsciously. The video ended. Silence. Your Honor, the prosecutor said, the defense can claim many things, but they cannot claim this didn't happen. Medical evidence next. Photos of my bruised jaw from 3 angles. Urgent care documentation. The text message threats scrolling across the screen, all 47 of them. Trevor testified, told his story, showed his scar. Cross-examination tried to discredit him. You have financial motive to lie. But he held firm. I want him to stop hurting people. The money's long gone. David testified via video from Seattle. Patricia from San Diego. The web of fraud expanding on screen. William's final withdrawal shown in bank records. Then recess. In the hallway, Catherine pulled me aside. Sarah's here. She wants to testify. I looked toward the courtroom doors. My daughter stood there in her nursing scrubs. Professional. Credible. Terrified. Are you sure? I asked her. No, but I'm doing it anyway. Court resumed. Your Honor, the prosecutor stood. We have one additional witness, Sarah Cole. Brandon's head snapped up. Color drained from his face. His attorney objected. Not disclosed, ambush. But the judge overruled. Sarah walked to the stand, hand on Bible. I do. She wore her Providence Hospital ID badge. Visual credibility. Mrs. Cole, you're the defendant's wife and the victim's daughter? Yes. Were you present March 19th when the alleged assault occurred? I was in my mother's living room. Describe what you witnessed. Sarah's hands gripped the rail, voice steady despite tears. My husband asked my mother for $15,000. She declined. He became angry, very angry. He raised his hand and slapped her across the face, hard. I saw blood immediately. What did you do? Nothing. Her voice cracked. I froze. I was shocked. I should have done something, but I didn't. And I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Why are you testifying today? Sarah looked at Brandon, then at me. Because my father died believing I was sick. Because my uncle and aunt gave thousands of dollars to save my life when I was never in danger. Because silence is complicity. Her voice strengthened. And I'm done being complicit. Brandon stood suddenly. This is insane. She's lying. She saw nothing. Judge Morrison's gavel cracked. Mr. Cole, sit down. She's making it up. He got to her. This is... Bailiff, remove the defendant. Brandon was escorted out, still yelling. The doors closed on his voice. Courtroom silent, except nervous coughing. You may step down, Judge Morrison said. Thank you for your courage. The verdict came after lunch. Judge Morrison reviewed notes. Clock ticking. Everyone frozen. I've reviewed all evidence, testimony, and applicable law. The video evidence is clear and unambiguous. The witness testimony establishes a pattern of predatory behavior. Mr. Cole, I find you guilty of assault and battery in the 4th degree. Brandon's knees buckled. His attorney steadied him. Sentencing, restraining order 100 yards. 90 days jail suspended pending anger management completion. Restitution, $8,500 to me. $3,200 court costs. Any violation means immediate incarceration. Do you understand? Yes. Barely audible. Court adjourned. 3 weeks later, morning light hits my kitchen at 7:15. Same as always. I make coffee. 3 scoops Folgers. Water to the 8-cup line. Pour it in the blue mug with the chip. Sarah's shower runs upstairs. She's been living here since the trial, getting ready for her shift at Providence. They reinstated her after the verdict. Apologized for the suspension. She comes downstairs in scrubs, takes coffee silently. Morning. Morning, Mama. Not much conversation. But she's here. We're here. That's enough. After she leaves, the house is quiet. I sit in my reading chair. Look out at the garden. William's roses are blooming. I've started tending them again. Not perfectly. Some are still overgrown. Some branches need pruning. But they're blooming anyway. Pink and yellow and red. Stubborn, like me. The theater programs sit on the shelf. I haven't reorganized them in weeks. Don't need to. They're fine where they are. Everything doesn't have to be in perfect order to still matter. My phone buzzes. David from Seattle. Just checking in. We talk now. Real conversations. About William. About healing. About moving forward. Kevin's flying in next month. Bringing the grandkids. First visit in 2 years. The house feels different now. Lighter somehow. Not because Brandon's gone, though that helps. But because the truth is out. The lies are done. The performance is over. I think about my grandmother. About what she would say seeing me now. Probably, "Baby, you should have listened the first time he showed you who he was." Then, "But I'm proud you finally listened. Better late than never." I don't know when exactly I came back to myself. But one morning, maybe it was today, maybe tomorrow, I woke up and the coffee tasted right again in William's old mug. The roses needed tending and I wanted to tend them. The theater programs called me back and I answered. And Sarah came down for breakfast without me having to knock. That morning I knew. Not that everything is healed. Not that the money's coming back or the family's whole again or the past 3 years didn't happen. But that we're both still here, still trying, still blooming despite the damage. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything.